All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, basketball fans of all ages, I am Beast Mikey. You have now arrived at my train of thought. It's time to get into the power rankings. Let's not waste any more time before the Thursday night games begin. Let's get to business. Starting with the Sixers. 72-73 Sixers, that is. Tier. Washington, normal bad week. You didn't look completely awful for the most part of the week. You actually fought in a good amount of your games, and yes, you lost them all, but losses aren't awful for you. Just keep the tank rolling quietly. Nobody will assume anything. We'll see you draft lottery night when all this tanking will actually be worth it, you would think. Charlotte, losing with Flair. Woo! Okay, this isn't Charlotte Flair. She does a lot of things with Flair, but losing is not what she does normally. This is about the Charlotte Hornets and how they've absolutely been blasted in their last 3 games. Let's talk about these games in question. They lost to the Portland Trail Blazers by 53. There is no team on this planet that should lose to the 2024-25 Blazers by 53 points. They got a little bit better against the Kings, though. Okay, that's not bad. They lost by 42 this time. Oh. And they scored 88 both games, by the way. So the good news is their offense got a little bit better against Golden State. They scored 92 points. The bad news is they lost by 36. So the only good thing that happened in all of these games in question, at least nobody saw them in Charlotte. And most people probably in Charlotte stayed asleep and didn't even bother watching these games. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. This season needs to end ASAP for the Hornets. Let it be known. Utah did beat Rockets. I'm confused by this. The Jazz are a really bad team. I think we've established that. But the fact that they beat Houston is a little stunning to me, and I think may speak more towards the Rockets than anything. They almost beat Portland too, but the fact that they beat Houston is very, very puzzling. I guess it doesn't ruin the tank. You're still the second worst record in the league. Just keep doing what you're doing quietly, similar to Washington, and we'll see you on draft lottery night. New Orleans, WrestleMania 43. The good news is you are hosting said event in the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. And also the stuff surrounding it will come back to your city for the 3rd time in 14 years. That's a good thing. The Pelicans are terrible, but we knew this already. Their season cratered very, very hard. And like most teams I'm talking about in this tier, you're kind of losing in silence. You did beat San Antonio twice, but you're kind of supposed to do that without Wemby. Well, most teams are anyway. Philadelphia. Deflation is real. Okay, we're in a world where egg prices are now costing an arm and a leg. We're in a world where gas prices are going up, grocery prices are going up. But there is one thing that I can say is actually decreasing. 76ers tickets. I don't know why you'd want to go see the 76ers, but 76ers ticket prices are drastically decreasing. Let's talk about it. Golden State's entry is very normally high, as it should be. Golden State's one of the big draws in the NBA. $67 just to get in the door. Cool, fine. The next 5 games against Portland, Utah, Indiana, Washington, and Miami combined, $20 just to get in to all 5 games. This is according to the Game Time app. It's a really good app. They're not a sponsor of this video. I wish they would sponsor me. I may try to get a deal hooked up with them to try to get in on this. But anyway, the fact that it's $20 to get into those 5 games, that's a really good deal if for some reason you're a Sixers fan and or like pain. I guess that also works. Or you're a fan of the Heat, Wizards, Pacers, Jazz, or Blazers in this area. At which point, it's probably worth going to go see them. And the Sixers are terrible. Please, Embiid, get the surgery. Anyway, Toronto, Leafs or Vlad? I'm trying to figure out what the sacrifice is. Is it for the Toronto Maple Leafs to make another run into the second round of the playoffs? Or is it for Vladimir Guerrero to actually stay in Toronto long term? Word on the street is Duke could get $600 million in his next deal. And I think that's probably worthy. He's not a great fielder, but that bat is ridiculous. Also, the Raptors are not very good, but we knew this. You at least have your first round pick this year. Good job. Let's get to the 71-72 Phoenix Suns tier. Chicago, Bears cap space. Chicago has the fourth most cap space in the NFL. They have $79 million and change at this moment in time. I'm obviously going to get into that more so when I get into the where do we go from here series. As for the Bulls, it's not great. You're still kind of sluggish, and you guys need a lifeline in the worst way possible. I would like to see Dylan Harper get drafted by Chicago. I think that would actually be really nice to see him go play where his father played once upon a time. Anyway, Phoenix, total eclipse. Where's your defense? I get it. Devin Booker's okay defensively. Durant's decent defensively. You have nobody else there that can actually defend or get critical rebounds. And this is just bad. It's just awful. You lose to the Spurs hours after they find out Victor Wembanyama is out for the year and look pretty bad doing it, and then got no reasonable stops in the process of this L. That's a pretty humiliating loss. Okay, sure. You got run by Toronto. This is also not good. You lose while giving up 148 to Memphis, which is, okay, cool. Memphis is very good, but giving up 151 points is not great, and by no means should a team lose while scoring 148. Yikes. This team is cratering and fading fast and needs to just fall out of the race by now. You don't have picks. Cool, I get it, but I think I just got to blow it up at this point. And well, if Kevin Durant gets traded in the offseason, I think that's all the better for all of us. Get him on a contender or a team that can contend if they're fully healthy. San Antonio, I think, should be calling Phoenix's number for Kevin Durant. Speaking of which, the Spurs. Pop and Wemby. What a difference a week makes, right? We understood that San Antonio was going to not have Greg Popovich for the foreseeable future due to his health conditions. And we understood it for a lot of this year. I think a lot of us probably suspected he wasn't going to come back this season. He made it official earlier today. This comes a week after Wembanyama's blood clot issues with his right shoulder, and now both of those guys are not going to come back this year. If I'm San Antonio, just ride this out with Mitch Johnson. We'll see what happens. You might have to go get a legitimate coach. I think is it time to try to get Becky Hammon to the NBA as the first women's NBA coach? It's on the board to me. And if I'm San Antonio, you might have to get a real coach. I don't think Mitch Johnson's it. I just don't see it. And obviously after this year, Chris Paul will probably be gone. Cool, fine. It'll truly be De'Aaron Fox and Stephen Castle and Devin Vassell as your three guards. Cool, fine. If you're San Antonio, just ride it out. Just ride out this season. Whatever may happen, may happen. And we'll see you in the draft lottery night with your pick and Atlanta's pick. Brooklyn can't beat Sixers. The good news is that's their last couple of wins are against the Sixers. Okay, fine. You're supposed to do that at this moment in time. The Sixers are awful and are cratering almost as fast as the Suns are. The bad news is you can't beat anybody else in the last few weeks, and that's not great. Now, there's no shame in losing to the Cavaliers. The Cavs are good. There's no shame in losing to the Thunder. The Thunder are good. Both those teams are S-tier teams. Losing to the Wizards is not great. And, okay, you did beat the Hornets, at least there's that. But losing to the Wizards is not great. Anyway, at least this season is kind of going along quietly. The Nets are kind of tanking in silence, and that's fine. That's okay. They did win 6 of their last 10, though. At least there's that. Portland, Shaedon Sharpe dunk. Never mind what Portland did to Charlotte. I already talked about that. But this Shaedon Sharpe dunk is actually gross. I mean, he dunked that with his whole body and his whole soul and ancestors potentially, with the swagger of Shannon Sharpe or Sterling Sharpe, or and he made everyone watch it on Sharp televisions. Like it was actually gross what he did to that poor man, that poor Washington Wizard. It was just not great for anyone who was a fan of the Wizards at that time. But this dunk is actually ridiculous, and it's probably dunk of the year. Very happy to see that. I do want to see Portland make some sort of jump and make some sort of move forward. I just don't know how they do it, though, if it doesn't involve Cooper Flagg or one of the Rutgers dudes. And Atlanta, fighting with Florida. This will become apparent in the next few moments with the two Florida teams coming up. But the Hawks had a home-and-home with the Miami Heat over the last week, and they split those games. Okay, cool, fine. Standings-wise, those Atlanta and the Florida teams are basically fighting for 6, 7, and 8, for 7, 8, and 9, I should say. They're a game and a half apart. Atlanta is the third of those three teams at this moment in time. It just feels like they're fighting for play-in spots as the 6 teams ahead of them are putting distance between themselves and Atlanta and the Florida teams. Atlanta feels like a team that's going to be out in the play-in, and I think that's okay. That's the best-case scenario for the Hawks, where they didn't completely crater and give the Spurs a top 5 pick this year. But Atlanta's got to figure something out in the offseason and do it fast. Let's get to the 93-94 Nuggets tier. Miami, Atlanta, and Orlando. As I just mentioned about the split with the Hawks, the Heat are at least kind of somewhat finding their footing once again after this Jimmy Butler trade. They have a crucial matchup with Indiana tomorrow night. That's a big, big deal. But Miami, I think they have a pulse with this youth and athleticism. Can they get enough consistent scoring aside from Tyler Hero? I do need to see more of that. And at some point, Miami's got to get younger at the point guard spot. But I do like what Miami has in terms of their youth and their hunger on defense. I just need more consistent scoring from people not named Tyler Hero. Other than that, I think you're good to go here. Next up, Orlando, Firebirds. You get the triangle now, by now. With the Magic, they had a chance to make a loud, powerful statement against the Cavaliers and got absolutely bludgeoned, and it was not great. There's no shame in getting beat by Cleveland, but getting beat by 40 is kind of gross. And they had a really good game with Memphis, so that would have been nice for them to win that game. They, too, beat Atlanta in the last week, so that's another big deal. Orlando staying ahead of the Hawks and the Heat down the stretch, I think is a very good look. I do need to see, other than Wagner and Paolo Banchero, I would like to see some other guys continue to consistently step up. And if they can get that, I think Orlando will be just fine. They are going to need people not named Franz Wagner and Paolo to get it done, though. That will be very, very necessary. Dallas, a playoff game. That's what Tuesday felt like to them. That's what Tuesday felt like to me watching them. They played that game with a playoff intensity and basically said, Luka will not beat us tonight. Now, sure, Luka got a triple-double, but Luka had to work to get it, and LeBron was the one that did the beating of the Mavericks. Now, this is also with a Dallas team that's not completely healthy yet. And if Dallas is able to get healthy, Dallas could actually be nasty. Maybe we had this wrong. Or maybe it's exactly what we suspected. Dallas has got 2 years to probably get a title before Anthony Davis and or Kyrie Irving kind of sort of get old and things get kind of sort of bad. We'll see what Dallas can do with this time. Sacramento, play-in team. It feels like the West play-in teams are kind of sort of solidified at this moment in time. With Phoenix cratering, Sacramento is currently 10th in the West, but Phoenix is fading fast, and I think that's good for everybody above them. The Kings are okay. I don't see them as special, but I do see them as play-in worthy. DeRozan is playing pretty well since the Aaron Fox trade. Zach LaVine's playing fairly well. Obviously, Domantas Sabonis doing his thing. They look okay, and that's fine. I just feel like they're a one-and-done team, depending on the play-in matchup. Said play-in matchup could be against Golden State, a rejuvenated team. Once again, this Jimmy Butler trade has really helped Golden State kind of get right. It's helped Jimmy Butler get right. It's helped the Warriors find an extra gear and an extra energy. And now you got two defensive monsters in Draymond and Butler, and Steph with Butler offensively, where both guys can close. Golden State could be a very, very tough out in the Western Conference, no matter what seed they are. And currently speaking, they're 8th, and would get Minnesota at this moment in time. I think that's a really good matchup for Golden State, considering their experience against Minnesota in a one-game situation. Jimmy Butler guarding Anthony Edwards, that would be appointment viewing if it happened in the playoffs. It could also be against the Clippers. Showdown with Lakers. That's coming up. Lakers v. Clippers, that is tomorrow night at Crypto, or Staples. I should just call it Staples. I think we all recognize it as Staples. Showdown, Clippers-Lakers, monster game, and a kind of litmus test game for the Clippers. Are you capable of being amongst the West Heavies, legitimate West Heavies, when it comes to playoff time? Beating the Lakers, this current version, would probably help everybody's thinking in this regard. Let's get to the O2 Kings tier. Milwaukee, Kyrie and Trae. That's literally your next week, Milwaukee Bucks. Damian Lillard's going to have to deal with Kyrie Irving and Trae Young. He's got a home with Dallas, with Atlanta on the road in between. They're a stable, steady team, Milwaukee is. They're not as dominant as they were a couple years ago. Fortunately, they're not as injury-prone as they were last year. They're stable. And could Milwaukee make a run? Sure. Giannis can go Super Saiyan in any given moment. So can Dame Lillard. Can Milwaukee get to the regular season finish line with those two and Brook Lopez and everyone else around them? Indiana, some big wins. This was a pretty good week for the Pacers. Good win against the Clippers. Good win against Memphis. A solid, productive week for a Pacer team that needed to stay afloat and are doing a pretty good job of it. Now, I don't think Miami, Orlando, or Atlanta will be able to catch them or Milwaukee, or Detroit for that matter, but them beating the Heat and keeping them at bay would be a very good look for the Pacers. That happens tomorrow night. That's a pretty crucial game, and a pretty good night of NBA basketball tomorrow. Minnesota, staying steady, but I am concerned. If they have a one-game duel with Golden State, I am a little concerned. Jimmy, in a 7-game series against Golden State, I think their youth and athleticism could take over. And Anthony Edwards has shown himself to absolutely terrorize people. That could be a problem. But in a one-game showdown, no matter if it's in Minneapolis or in San Francisco, I am a little concerned that Golden State wins that game and puts them in a do-or-die clash with a Kings or with a whoever would win the 9-10 battle. It could be Sacramento, obviously, sure. It could be Dallas, sure. I'd be a little concerned for Minnesota. I think the two Wolves are fine, and I think they're capable of making a run against Anthony Edwards just like that. I just need to see Julius Randle do something and Rudy Gobert actually be healthy. That would also be nice. Detroit, earning legitimacy. Detroit's the hottest team in the league right now. 8 straight wins, and their last one being a very loud, powerful statement, blowing out the Celtics. A really, really impressive win, and easily their win of the year against the reigning NBA champions. That's impressive. Now, what do they do for an encore? Well, they only play the Denver Nuggets next. Another chance to earn some more stripes and earn some more legitimacy. Either way, Detroit looks like a very worthy 1 through 6 seed, probably a 6 seed here in the NBA playoff run. But I like where they're doing, how they're doing this, and they're doing a lot of this without Jaden Ivey. That's a huge deal to me. They get Ivey back. He and Cade Cunningham have shown themselves to be a very good guard duo. Detroit looks kind of real, and I'm very impressed. Houston, puzzling Jazz loss. A pretty decent week for the Rockets, I will say. That Utah loss is a little weird. Aside from that, a pretty solid week. The Rockets are scoring really well. They're getting production from everybody. A lot of depth, not too much experience, sans Van Fleet and Dillon Brooks, but in terms of playoff experience, but a very solid team. I do think it could be still the learning experience year for them, but in the meantime, between time, Houston's doing a pretty good job. And the Knicks, Cavs and Celtics. So the good news is the Knicks are going to be a good team. They're going to be the 3 seed, more than likely, in the NBA playoffs. The bad news is they're 0-5 against Cleveland and Boston. And the Boston losses have both been ugly this month. Not great. And this is with a healthy Karl Anthony Towns, who got hurt towards the end of the Boston game. Now, they survived the Sixer game last night, thanks to Jalen Brunson going God mode for the last few minutes and continuing to have a hex over the Sixers for some reason. But the Knicks are a kind of 5-man show, their starting 5, and I'm very concerned about their bench otherwise, and they're in real trouble against Cleveland or Boston if and when they see them in round 2. For that matter, any team with respectable depth, I think you give the Knicks a series in the Eastern playoffs. And now to the 95-96 Bulls tier. LA Lakers, legit title contenders. I think this Luka trade has not only kind of rounded things out in terms of, okay, Luka's probably the primary ball handler, with LeBron being able to play off ball, Austin Reeves being able to play off ball, all three of them being able to play make. But I think it's kind of rounded out the roster in terms of importance. LeBron and Luka are 1 and 1A. I think we've established that. Austin Reeves as your third scorer. You have the emergence of Rui Hachimura as a very solid fourth piece. And they really just look overall like a very balanced team in those regards. I'm still very worried about them when it comes to size, as in their lack thereof. If they have to deal with a Jokic for a 7-game series, I'd be very concerned. Now, last Saturday night, they did a great job against Jokic. But could they do that and beat Denver 4 times out of 7 if they had to? Time will tell on that front. Memphis, a sluggish week. Kind of good, kind of bad, kind of weird Memphis week. Gave up a lot of points to the Suns, but won games. It's a little odd of a week. Still, Memphis is still rolling along and keeping things going relatively well. They and Denver are going to fight for the second seed in the Western Conference, but it's not bad. Like, they're in okay shape. They were their game against Cleveland. They beat a good Orlando team. They lost to a decent Pacer team, but it's Memphis, I think, is okay. I think they're going to do just fine. Just take care of the business you're supposed to, win a couple games that you're not supposed to, and see if you can snatch a tiebreaker with Denver and snatch that 2 seed. It would probably be very vital to get it. Denver, speaking of the Nuggets, 9 of 10. The good news is that's what Denver's on right now. Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic can't be stopped, and they're handling business well. The bad news is that one loss is against the Lakers, a team that they have owned over the last 3 years. That's a little concerning about how it was done. Luka absolutely shredded anybody who tried to guard him. LeBron got in where he fitted, and everybody else did an admirable job in guarding Jokic. That's a little concerning to me, considering the Lakers' lack of size, and how Denver, even though Denver was kind of sloppy in this game, got kind of sort of run off the court because Denver's threes weren't falling and the Lakers' threes were. I don't think this is going to happen 4 times out of 7 against the Lakers, but for one night, Denver did not look good against LA. A little concerning. Boston, shocking Pistons loss. I think we've established that Detroit's a good team. The fact that Boston lost to them by 20 is a little surprising and something that you just don't see every day. Not from these reigning champions who have been steady as they go, and when Boston's hitting threes, forget it, because nobody can shoot with them. They have 4 or 5 guys that can absolutely fill up the score sheet with threes, and threes only. Now, Boston will obviously be all right, but Boston's got a major game to look forward to tomorrow night that I'll get into in a sec. OKC, just stay steady. Like Memphis and Denver, just stay the course. You don't have to do anything ridiculous. You don't have to do anything insane. Just stay steady and stay efficient. You'll probably win 8 of your next 10, no matter what you do, because of how good your talent is. That's all you generally have to do. You'll be the 1 seed in the West by a lot. You may be the 1 seed overall in the NBA, depending on if you can catch and pass Cleveland. Showdown tomorrow night. ESPN got 2 heavyweight games to pay attention to. The first one's going to be Cleveland and Boston. The 2 East heavies, showdown time. Appointment viewing for most of us NBA fans. And I want to see what Cleveland can do against Boston. Can Cleveland match the firepower that Boston has when it comes to their shooting? That's going to be a big time deal. Meanwhile, Boston, the physicality that Cleveland brings on the interior with Mobley and Jared Allen. Can Boston match that? Big game indeed. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, showdown, Drew Holiday. Where will Holiday go in terms of the guarding matchups? Crucial game. I need this as the conference final. These are easily the 2 best teams in the East between Cleveland and Boston. Just get to the conference final with these 2 games and everybody healthy. I would feel so much better if that were the case. Second game of this ESPN doubleheader is Lakers and Clippers, the Battle of LA. This time the Lakers are hosting, so which means more gushing from commentators about Luka being a Laker, which will annoy a lot of people, especially Clipper fans, because they have the second team, the redheaded stepchild, if you will, of the area. But that's okay. It's a showdown that I think we need to see this. We need to see what Harden and Kawhi Leonard can do against LeBron and Luka, now that LeBron and Luka are a thing. And Norman Powell, how he's doing and how he's played really well. And can he outdo Austin Reeves in terms of the score sheet, in terms of the stat sheets, and production, obviously. 2 big games on ESPN tomorrow. I'll definitely be watching that. I'll be definitely looking forward to all of this. So there you have it. These are your power rankings for this week. Coming up next week, obviously, the more updated version of the power rankings, and it will really start to get into the Where Do We Go From Here series as I go division by division. There'll be a preview of that coming up, I would say Monday or Tuesday. Look out for that. So where does your NFL team go from here? Find out on my next Trains of Thought.